Yeah, welcome to this next session of our trading course program. So in this session, I'll definitely be showing you how to identify internal range liquidity, external range liquidity, and how to trade external range liquidity. So first of all, first thing first, let's take a look at the diagrammatic representation of an external range liquidity. So an external range liquidity, first let's take a look at that in a bearish market. Oh yeah, so probably both in a bearish market, bullish market, whatsoever. Right. So now in this case we have what? In the case of a bearish market, you have what? Or an external range liquidity. This is a case where price takes out what? Sweeps your change of sentiment for short. This is in a case where price sweeps your change of sentiment. In a bearish market, price sweeps your structural high. In a bullish market, price sweeps what? Sweeps your structural low, known as what? This is your your external range liquidity. So your change of sentiment is also act as your external range liquidity. So when it comes to external range liquidity, your change of sentiment act as an external your change of sentiment act as an external range liquidity when price is when market looks for the next opportunity, when you must have had what? A break of market structure. So when you must have had a break of market structure and price takes out your low, looking for what? Looking for the next opportunity. In some cases, price did go all the way up, takes out your change of sentiment without leading to what? A valid change of sentiment. That is the reason we have what? You have to understand how to identify valid change of sentiment, because in some cases you have a sweep like of such, and price did what? Did move, did continue to the downside, and you have what? You have this transfer today to the next direction. So in this case, you probably see price did what? Price sweeps and price moved to the downside. So these are cases where you have what? You have your change of sentiment being transferred. So in that case, you have what? You have an opportunity to trade. So that is the reason we have what? That is the reason the smart money concept is as unique as it is, because we have what? A lot of strategies in this concept that takes or that tackles whatever scenario you get in the market. So in as much as you're patient enough, you definitely will trade whatever scenario the market presents to you, be it an external range, be it whatsoever. So that is it. So in this case, we're definitely going to see how to execute our position right here, and we'll see a live example on a chart which we have traded before. So probably in this, like I said, as market, your change of sentiment is your external range external range liquidity, because when price takes out your break of market structure, when you have a valid break of market structure, price does what? Price goes after taking out your low, looking for the next opportunity or point of interest to mitigate. You have what? You have the external range, your change of sentiment also acting as what? Your point of interest. So that is why I often recommend the change of sentiment also is the external, that is the extreme point of interest, because when price does break that, close above that, that is when you have what? The trend changed. So but in cases where you have a sweep and a confirmation, because there might be sweep but no confirmation, in that case you don't trade it. So when you must have had a sweep, you have what? You definitely wait for the confirmation and you consider that trade. As simple as it is. Now in some cases you have what? You have a spike after a fundamental report, a spike into this trend. You have what? You have that confirmation of what? Your NEM2 strategy. You definitely what? This is also acting as what? A signal to what? To short this market, and as such you trade based on what? The NEM2 strategy in this case. And should you have what? Align, should the market align itself and does what? Does your single candle confirmation entry based on what? External range liquidity. Because I said this because some traders at this point, some traders will be focusing on what? The NEM2 strategy, but some traders will definitely be focusing on what? On the external range liquidity. So they might be looking at what? The market attempting to what? Attempting to change sentiment, whereas it might be acting as what? An external range liquidity. As a result of that, you have what? You trade accordingly. So should, in case you have no what? You have no point of you have no confirmation, you shouldn't trade it. So next, let's see how the market present itself for opportunities. Now you probably take a look at this. You probably see that as price did this, we have our A sweep, B confirmation. As we had this, you have our single candle confirmation entry. You had that, and you wait for the next candlestick to what? Mitigate. So you see mitigate and you execute the position. So as C mitigate your single candle confirmation entry, you consider what the confirmation. As such, you execute and price it what price it move to the downside. So what you're definitely targeting what you're definitely targeting this low, and you place your stop loss above here. So but this doesn't mean that price cannot move to the upside, all right? But this is in this case it is rare. In most cases, the very rare cases, you see this, you see such, which means if you are trading the 1 hour time frame as an intraday trader, what you should consider is you should consider an external range liquidity on the hourly time frame. If you should be trading as a scalper, considering what the 15-minute time frame as your higher time frame, therefore you should consider an external range liquidity on what your time frame. Therefore generally you should consider an external range liquidity on the time frame to which you definitely map structures, because your external range liquidity is definitely what your change of sentiment, and price it move to the downside, and definitely hit your take profit. Now let's take a look at this example right here. As you can see here, we have market move to the downside and this, so you definitely have this. Now in this, after this explanation, you should pause for a moment and definitely understand what this entire chart is all about. And as a result of that, as you see price move to the downside, you have your lower taken out, you have your BMS, price did break to the downside, and you have your lower, and price did move to the upside. Now these are your internal range liquidity, but we are not focused on internal range liquidity, rather we are focused now on an external range liquidity. And having this as your change of sentiment, you probably see that price did move to the upside, had a sweep, but it didn't act as what it didn't act as a change of sentiment. But initially, this is your change of sentiment here. This is external range liquidity because this is your previous structure right here. But in this case, you have a sweep because price did move to the upside. We didn't had a valid change of sentiment. All right, that's a close above it for you to consider what a sentiment changed from bearish from bearish to bullish. Rather, you had that sweep, and you had your single candle confirmation entry, and you can see this next candlestick. Now the previous, we had the next candlestick mitigating. In some cases, the next candlestick might not just mitigate, but you should see a mitigation of it. It just means that you should understand this concept. It means that you should wait for a mitigation of your single candle confirmation entry, and as such you consider a trade here. And as you can see that it does it did move to the downside significantly to the downside, and hit your break of market structure. So a lot of traders using trend line might be considering a trend change, whereas you trading this concept have a clear knowledge of and clear understanding and clear knowledge understanding of what the market is actually doing, and you trade and you target your break of market structure. As simple as it is. This is your swing low. The market hasn't changed sentiment yet, so this is acting as the next strategy. That is why I said we have strategies in a trading system. So these are strategies put in place to trade. So you should, as you must have learned this, you digest this, you practice this. Whenever the market trades this and takes and these scenarios are taking place, you consider doing what? You consider implementing such strategy. So you have a strategy which during this period, whatever the market is doing, you implement the strategies. So whatever the market is doing right here, you probably implement because we had initially we had this is our point of interest, our extreme point of interest right here, this other block right here. But price did price did push above it and takes out the high before considering a salt. So if you had no lower time frame confirmation, or even if you had a lower time frame confirmation, you see that sometimes price did price attempt to break the high, and as a result of certain factors, it does move to the downside. But often always stick to the plan. And as such you have your trade. So in as much as you stick to the plan, you trade accordingly, then you're definitely going to be profitable. It is for sure. It's definitely going to be profitable. The problem comes when you start taking decisions on your own. You start trading based on emotional, or you start implementing you start trading based on emotions. So you shouldn't trade based on emotions. There is no emotional attachment here. You shouldn't attach that, because it doesn't lead to profitability. Now after this mark the end of the session. So after this, what you should be able to understand, or what you should be able to do, is you should be able first, in order to understand this session and how to go about it, you should be able to identify valid external range liquidity. You should be able to distinguish between external range liquidity and change of sentiment, right? Therefore, you should understand what you should be able to distinguish between what external range liquidity and change of sentiment. Like I said initially, you have a change of sentiment, and but as price sweeps and leads to what, and leads to a confirmation of your change of sentiment, that's it automatically changes to what, external range liquidity, because that is not what a valid change of sentiment as we have just seen. But if price closes above it, then that acts as what, a change of sentiment. As simple as that. So see you in the next session.